Hello.
Okay.
There you go. Phew.
I was on mute.
I know. I thought okay.
I
Well,
want to
at
talk
least
about it.
are you doing this on purpose for the technical difficulties segment?
I don't want to talk about it. Biscuit, erase from memory.
Oh.
Anyway, welcome to BeerNet Radio, our first branded BeerNet Radio. And for our first guest, nothing changes. It's just on the YouTube, it's the same thread. And then on the RSS feed, you just have to resubscribe on this feed if you like it. If you don't like it, then no worries. All right, so we have Bill Shufelt.
Yes.
Shufelt,
I think.
Shufelt.
Okay.
All right, we'll cut that in post. All right, let's let the guy in. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
Bill. How are you?
Great. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Congratulations. You're our first guest on the new old podcast. Anyway, of course, this is Bill Shufelt. Is that pronouncing that right?
Yep, nailed it.
Oh man, I was sweating it too. Awesome. And from the founder of Athletic Brewing, and man, what a amazing success story. One of the leading non-alcoholic brews out there. And I tell you, Jenn gave you a really good endorsement, and I ordered a case and I got a case just sent to me. So I have 2 cases of a variety pack. And I got to tell you, they not only taste like real beer, as I'm sure you get all the time, but it tastes like good beer. Like it, it's so you really hit both those metrics really well. And we don't normally talk about the taste of anything on this show or in our newsletters, but in this case, you really have to point out that it's very difficult, I would think, technically to do, and you did it. And so tell me how you, I'm just going to ask the first broad question and then hand it off to Jennifer and Jordan. But, how did you get into this, and what made you decide non-alcoholic? And that was a pretty big jump, you got to say, because the market at the time especially just wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, I guess first, thank you for the kind words. And on that point, that is totally a testament to John Walker, our other co-founder. He came from the alcoholic craft brewing world, had won every medal under the sun from GABF to World Beer Cup, and in the toughest categories too. And it's totally a testament to his approaching this from the scientific method and building up. And he said when we teamed up, we're not going to market ever if it's not exactly what you said, great beer, not just good non-alcoholic beer.
Right.
Before we go into that, I do want to say just thank you. And as someone who used to, in my financial career, have to hit send on a financial newsletter every morning with interesting content and all the news fit to print by 6:30 Eastern, I have a huge respect for what you guys do and appreciate your service to the industry. But the humor you bring to it, the trends, the news, everything helps all of us so much. So I appreciate being here at
Well, thank you so much, Bill. Usually we don't get a lot of compliments here. I can tell you that. Well, it's very rare, but so we really treasure the ones. Well, Jordan, remind me to clip this off, and we'll have it on a loop on the website, just going 24/7.
You got it.
It was totally honest. I have such respect for shipping your work every day and
Yes,
at a great hour. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it. It is nerve-wracking at times, but because you can't unsend, I've found many times.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. In terms of how I got into this, I never intended to be an entrepreneur, especially not in food. I had never seriously thought about non-alcoholic beer except to make fun of it, honestly, in my prior life, as 99% of Americans who've ever thought about non-alcoholic beer have a bad impression of it for multi-decade reasons. But I had this super busy day job. As I said, I had to ship my work to probably 1,000 people, or by 6:30 a.m. Maybe not that many. Actually, when I was on the sell side, it was that many. And I was doing more evening entertaining at that point too. So it was twice as risky. But like, I love to wake up early, work out, do good work. And then I was going to work dinners 3 or 4 nights a week, going to sports bars with friends on weekends, weddings, barbecues, bachelor parties, sports, like all normal stuff. But I was getting kind of sick of alcohol on so many of those nights. But I'm just a huge foodie, a huge beer guy. I'd gone to college in Vermont, and like when I started drinking less and then ultimately not drinking at all, it like blew my mind that there's 8,000 brewers in this country and no one is making just an awesome craft beer that you can drink like right now or like, and so it was such a pain point that I found myself like complaining to my friends, complaining to my wife. We'd be walking to an awesome dinner and I'd like just be poo-pooing the dinner before it even gets there, because like either the beer, the wine, whatever in your hand is as much of that moment as anything that lands on your plate. And it was just a pain point. And like it started with a huge pain point and then it became an intellectual curiosity. And then it's just been a huge passion since then. And like John and I crank on this like 12, 16 hours every day, all 7 days of the week. And it's not because it's a job, it's because like we just love what we're doing. And yeah, like rather than like watching NFL football on Saturday, like ideas are just going through my head and I end up like going back to do something. But yeah, it was kind of just, it came from a love of beer, but wanting those occasions in more places in my life, which were just totally underserved in the beer world. But just as someone who did a lot of financial research and stock research and like tons of survey work, I started running surveys and it was like, oh, 55% of adults would love a good non-alcoholic craft beer. And then it's like, oh, 15 million Americans suffer from alcohol use disorder. Maybe they'd also like a good non-alcoholic beer. And even like the 40% of people who drink alcohol who love beer regularly, they'd probably love a beer like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after a stressful day and like not derail their week. And so it was at first like all the easy economics and really solving a pain point for myself. Like I'm definitely customer number one. And then we've just been laying the foundation from there and kind of running full speed.
It is good. I mean, it's 1:30.
Oh, nice.
I'm having one right now.
I no joke, like not because I'm like an employee of Athletic or anything. I have like one of our like coffee stouts in the afternoon as my like 2 p.m. pick me up. On a stressful day, I'll have an IPA at like 4. And it like really does take your temperature down. There's something about the malt, the hops that is like the thousands of years we've all been drinking beer. Like when that hits your like senses, it's like, whew, I'm like kind of relaxing now.
Yeah, it's like a Pavlovian dopamine response. It's like,
Yeah.
we know what's coming. We can see it, Harry. This is your first beer. Brace for impact, brain. And then the brain's like, wait, it's not coming? What's going on here?
But,
Mass confusion in sober October. So.
But so many of those favorite beers are like that first beer when you're seeing a friend at a bar. And like, I mean, there are all sorts of times where you like have to do work later in the night and like, or something like that, or drive or whatever. And it could be one alcoholic beer, one non-alcoholic. And I don't know. It's I think it's going to fit in a lot of people's lives in a lot of different ways.
So to that point, Bill, I mean, first of all, it's hard to underscore how successful you guys have been this year, right? I mean, the list of things y'all have achieved is pretty impressive. I mean, you've got you're going to open your second facility on the East Coast, first one on the West Coast, right? After you guys secured 50 million in new funding. I mean, you guys are like one of the fastest growing craft brewers. Non-alc beer is the 3rd fastest growing craft type. I mean, it's just like firing on all cylinders. So, the story you just gave about how you came to non-alc, what's driving it going forward, right? Are your customers, all those things you're achieving, are they like you, right? Like, or what does your customer look like? So what's driving this? And then also, could this be a blip, right? Because non-alc beer has existed for a really long time, right? Not as good as yours, though. The flavor is real, right? But so where's it going? Who is it and where's it going in the longer term?
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it appears that way because there's like things going wrong everywhere, every day. And there's literally a broken water main, like 50 feet diagonally back to my left.
Oh, I thought that was a superimposed screen. You're actually in the brewery.
It is. I'm just in a different room in the brewery.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is our San Diego facility behind
There
me.
you go.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things driving the category. I think people were ready for it. Information at people's fingertips is better than it has ever been, and people are tracking the inputs into their lives and how it affects the outputs. And be it like iWatches, Whoop bands, just tracking how you sleep, being able to Google things. But also like the trends of health, mindfulness, wellness aren't going anywhere. But also the trends of the world being an extremely stressful place, and alcohol, cannabis, and everything having a great place in that world is also not going anywhere. But there are all sorts of occasions that those worlds are missing. So I kind of like to think of it as like the beer, wine, and spirits world have been kind of knife fighting over the same occasions on the same like 2 or 3 days of the week. It used to be 5 days, 4 days, 3 days. Now it's like 2.5 days at very specific hours. Like they're fighting over those occasions so aggressively. I think non-alcoholic beer gives beer the first credible occasion driver in decades, really. It done well. I think it has all these trends at its back. We're potentially adding 5 days of the week. If you think like 70% of Americans drink, 50% drink with some regularity, 40% of them drink beer or like as their primary, which has been kind of going down. I think this is a way that beer can like speak to the whole rest of the population that's not in that 40% of the 50%. And
with occasions, you know, Germans drink beer for breakfast. Why can't we have beer for breakfast? A nice stout, you know, an oatmeal stout. That sounds delicious, actually.
Yeah, and we have all sorts of shopper data that shows like 70% of our drinkers drink alcohol at other times. The average non-alcoholic beer purchaser purchases X amount of more beer and other stuff in the grocery store than the average customer. So I don't think this is like so many people when they talk about non-alcoholic beer growth, they think, oh, where's that going to be carved out of beer from? And Harry, I've seen you write about this, but it's like, it is not that. It is like
Additive.
Totally different growth that just no one's been speaking to. And it's those customers I surveyed that were like, hey, 55% of us are here without a product meeting us in the market right now, you know?
Well,
So
Bill, when you guys got started, you know, the joke that I used to like to say when Heineken 0.0, I was like, oh, they're going after that coveted O'Doul's occasion. You know? It was like, what are they doing? It's like tilting at windmills that aren't even there because the market wasn't there. And you know, and Heineken and you guys have proved the market is there. We just didn't know the market was there. And now I see it. There are just so many occasions where you do want a beer, but you don't want a beer.
And that Heineken's good. It's like that's a great crisp Heineken, and like that beer on premise in bottles is a huge like that's a great on premise driver. And like I think the Stella coming out will be similar too. And so we're happy to have these complementary beverages help round out the category with us as well.
And you've had some pretty impressive, you know, growth trajectories, or, you know, in terms of how much share of beer you think non-alc can get to, because to your point, if it's adding occasions, you're not taking a sliver out of that pie, you're adding to it. So you've said you think it can get to double digit, right, of a share of beer in the next, 5 years or?
Yeah, I think some well circulated headlines have been somewhat like they've taken the low end of the timeline range and the high end of the percentages sometimes, but
shrank those.
I would also not say anything out loud that I didn't think we might have a chance of blowing through as well. And it all depends on like how hard these trends hit, how hard people market the category, what kind of stigmas are broken down. And I do really think it could get there. And it's not, carving out from like any specific alcoholic category. It may be carving out of sugary sodas. I mean, those categories are enormous and there's no better way to ruin a good meal. But I really do think like so it's gone from like 0.3% to 0.7% of beer in like the latest 13-week data. But non-alcoholic beer is a category too. In the top 10, 6 of those companies are declining, most by double digits, and it's like Heineken, Bud Zero, and Athletic driving the 30% pretty much in any period. But the non-alcoholic craft side is growing 300% in any time slice too. So I do think it doesn't take that long growing at even 30% to really get to some big numbers. But I do think the big growth is into new populations, into new occasions, and the marketing has to be there too. Because very similar to like in craft beer has a lot of green grass in front of it still. I think kind of where craft beer has faltered is the low-hanging fruit was taken. The local marketing is great on the shelf or in the tap rooms and stuff like that, but there are so few craft brewers marketing to new audiences, trying to grow the category. And you see the same few beer brands in very visible marketing and advertising. I think craft beer has kind of missed the marketing message to grow their category further. And I think that's why it's kind of in a short-term plateau before more people start doing that potentially.
Well, to your point too, you guys do a lot of interesting lifestyle marketing, right? Because in essence, what you guys have done really well, besides nail the flavor, is you're a lifestyle brand. So you've had like this pop-up in Austin, month-long pop-up where people work out and then have an athletic beer, right? And I think you guys are doing more stuff like that. So tell me, where your mind is at in terms of that marketing and how much you think that's driving the brand too.
Yeah, we're definitely investing in, so like, if we're not out there marketing, really, non-alcoholic beer is just not gonna, if people just show up on the shelf, there aren't gonna be new people looking for it on the shelf. It's gotta be, we've gotta meet people where they are, market to them, reach new people and be like, no, non-alcoholic beer is for you now, and this is why it's great. And the best way to do that really is face-to-face in a lot of ways. Our team's gonna be at over 2,500 events this year at finish lines and all sorts of sampling opportunities. Like this weekend, I'll be at our title Ironman race up in Oceanside here, but probably give out a few thousand beers. But it's those, and it started in 2018 with me doing like 75 races by myself. But like those are thousands and thousands of conversations about being like, hey, no, I'm a normal guy. I love this beer. Just try a little bit before you make fun of me. It's awesome, trust me. And like you just have to get it in people's hands, and then it kind of goes from there, and they tell their friends and everything. But it does actually have to be good marketing and good beer. Otherwise, the industry spirals back into the same place it was. So we're really excited to see Heineken Zero, Bud Zero with like really well executed products, and some of the new incoming craft brands as well, from Sam Adams, Brooklyn, Lagunitas, everyone. They're like 4 of the top 10 breweries in the country are now in the category and making nicely executed beer. And I think that'll help the stigma fall down, as people, any beer they grab is a good beer.
Right. Then too, how much, talking about these other people who are good for the category, entering the category with a lot of weight behind them, right? But how much of this too is interaction with cannabis, do you think, right? People who don't want to drink anymore, but maybe they have a gummy or something, and then, hey, this is a great non-alc beer. These two go together. Is that a significant part of what you think is happening here with the new consumer?
I think that's definitely a use case. Like I think there's any number of beverages that could go well with cannabis. I do think ultimately non-alcoholic beer is probably going to be the best vessel for cannabis, like to really go from outside the party to inside the party. And because people aren't like, it's a tough social situation if you're like having an edible and then going inside a party and you have nothing. If you can have a beer all night, it kind of combines that. I do think like that's going to be a totally other complementary adult beverage category, that like cannabis beverages could ultimately be in the level of like beer, spirits, wine over time. Potentially as like a fourth functional category.
I mean, what do the next 2 to 5 years bring in terms of any sort of volume projections you can share for yourself? I mean, I know you guys have started a lot of new brands that kind of play into the more in different day parts. And even I'm sure there have been companies that have approached you. And how are you guys dealing with that as well?
I mean, there are a lot of different parts there.
Just tell me everything you guys are doing. Give it all.
And on the marketing side, we are excited to really continue marketing. So much of what we've done has been organic, cans in hands, like just pure hustle and like love of the game. We're finally starting to like invest more in our marketing and like really aiming to grow this category with a double-digit millions marketing budget for next year. And we just hired an incredible new CMO who started on Monday, Andrew Katz, who previously was at Heineken, running the Dos Equis brand, and Pepsi before that. So he's got both the alc and non-alc experience, and it's just an awesome cultural fit. I actually put a beer in his hand at the end of a race in 2018, and that's how we met.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we have big plans on marketing. In terms of new brands, like we're honestly mostly focused on our existing brands. We have like 7.5% effective distribution in the US. Like we're gonna be a top 25 brand, but 7% distribution. Like if we can right size that distribution, there's so much growth there. And people love Run Wild and Upside Down, and they're both in top 20 craft beer growth brands nationally. And most are in the top 5 of our distributors' portfolios. So we're really kind of sticking what's worked and just trying to get it into more people's hands for the year ahead. But that being said, we do have some really exciting innovation. Daypack's been doing great in other areas of the day as like a hopped sparkling hopped sparkling water. It's just super crushable with like 0 nutritionals. And then we have some other innovation more on the beer side for the year ahead as well, which we think could be every bit as big as Run Wild, if not bigger over time. And I think it goes right after some really huge categories. So we're that'll be launching in March. But yeah, in terms of plans ahead, I mean, in many ways, we feel like we're kind of a coiled spring. We've been building our team, building our plans, building our breweries. A lot of our problems have been capacity, and like you guys all know manufacturing businesses, it's just super hard to get there on scale in a reasonable amount of time. And we had to say no to most of the chains that wanted us in spring 2021. So like we can finally say yes to some more of them in 2022, some really big partners. And then our East Coast brewery will be going online in the spring as well, which will be even bigger than the San Diego brewery. Yeah, super excited about the team and just really the quality of beer. I'm definitely customer number one.
So then I have to ask, I'm sure, the strategics have approached you, and when that happens, what do you guys say?
I mean, we're really just head down building. I mean, we feel like I think about it a little bit, but like 98% of our focus is on just like the idea of velocity internally at our company is outrageous and so much fun. And we're definitely focused on the road ahead. And like, we're just finishing building both of our breweries really. Like obviously our phone does ring and we have had majority offers in the past, but like we're super focused on the road ahead and our plans.
Hey Bill, you were talking about distribution. What about at retail? What kind of like space are you seeing there? Are they adding more space, or are they kind of substituting space? Are they getting creative with where they put you around the store? What have y'all kind of uncovered there over the, with all this growth behind you?
Yeah, for sure. So people definitely are making more space. There's first like a transition of brands and then more space. A lot of retailers, like their non-alcoholic shelf, like some leading retailers like Whole Foods, for example, who was like really on the front of this trend. Their non-alcoholic beer shelf is up over 100% this year. Athletic is over 30% of that shelf in terms of dollar sales. But we are seeing more and more chains want to build out their non-alcoholic set and dedicate like an extra door to it or something like that, and more package varieties, and even some of the like complementary occasions too. Like there are some great non-alcoholic spirits and like developing non-alcoholic wines and stuff like that. So some retailers are starting to move and put those next to non-alcoholic beer at the end of the like beer set as well.
And then in the on-premise, what kind of traction and placement are you seeing there?
Yeah, so in 2019 we were like so out of capacity that like we couldn't really commit to be on menus and stuff like that. And then 2020 hit, and so 2021 is like our first real on-premise push, and it's grown from say 4% towards like 8% of our like wholesale distribution, and it's definitely a goal. Where we are on premise, it's really popular. especially in 20 somethings, 30 somethings, like weekend warriors, young professionals, weeknight taps. Like we've definitely had people who are bars that are high velocity of athletic, like just crush it during the week. But we do have evolving plans. We have some on-premise chains really interested to do big stuff in non-alcoholic this year, which I think will be really good marketing for the category and introduce to a lot more people at like, rather than having to commit to a $10 six pack, you can try a beer on premise at like very low risk to trial and get an endorsement from the server and stuff like that. So.
And so that's a growing piece of business, but I know that direct to consumer has always been a large part of your business, and y'all are kind of unique in the fact that you look at companies and off premise and you see this crazy growth, and that kind of tells a big picture of where this company is heading. But y'all still have pretty much half your business growing in DTC that nobody really knows about. So is that still about half of your business, and is it kind of seeing similar growth rates to off premise as well?
So it's definitely a really exciting channel. In volume, it's not as big as the other part of our business, and the greenest grass and the lowest hanging fruit is definitely on the wholesale side. Like in e-commerce, we have basically 100% distribution by default. Like when you open the door, on the wholesale side, like we still only have like 7.5% distribution in the country. Like despite our velocity per point of distribution, despite being the #2 growth brand in the nation and craft, despite being like the fastest growing brewery in the country, it is like a push to get like some of our partners to sell our beer into places, to make the deliveries. But then in other places, we do have far higher distribution. So like,
is that part and parcel of whether they have Heineken 0.0 or Lagunitas, going against bigger suppliers with a portfolio?
No, I mean, most of our best suppliers have Heineken in the portfolio and like understood the Athletic and Heineken complementary pitch, and they love both brands. I think like a perfect example is Columbia in the Pacific Northwest, is an incredible partner. Benny Keith in Texas has a big non-alcoholic portfolio outside of Athletic and does an incredible job with our brands. I think it's more just like, unfortunately, like some take a bit more push and like don't really buy in as much. But I guess on the e-com side though, like our e-commerce business is the #1 driver of the other side of the business, which is counterintuitive. Like I think a lot of people would be tempted to like put up fences and guardrails as much as they could. We do see like our best e-com states are our best wholesale states, and the states where we do almost nothing at wholesale, it's usually because either like that state has a specific law or something like that. So in marketing, actually, during the How Do You Say last week, like you referred to e-commerce as a national tap room. And in many ways, that kind of is what it is. Like we can do small scale stuff on e-commerce, prove it or kill it. And that way our innovation doesn't have to be a retail launch. And our distributors and retailers don't want to take innovation risk at launch. They want to know this is coming in within 10, 15%. This is how much we're going to sell on a monthly basis. These are our top 4 brands to sell for the year, and they're going to be a huge success. They don't want to be like, oh, is like our X random beer going to be the next big thing? We can tell them that already. And so it is like a national proving ground, but it is also a really unique marketing channel in that like we bring in over 10,000 new customers every month to our e-commerce channel, but 53% of those customers then go buy beer at retail in surveys. So it's like, there's no way our marketing efforts in the world are driving 5,000 new customers elsewhere in the retail world. So it's definitely our easiest way to get beer in hands for the first purchase, and then people go buy it at retail too.
Yeah,
it's like the new on-premise drives the off in some ways.
Right. And then last one for me is we're in sober October right now, and I'm just wondering. I know these types of new challenges like dry January, sober October, they introduce a lot of people to your beer, but can you talk a little bit about some of the like stickiness you see from these challenges? If you do see, I assume you do.
Yeah, So on average throughout a calendar year of anyone who tries our beer, 66% of people reorder at least once in like omni-channel. So it, even though people come into our beer in dry January, some like a lot do include it in their routine then and be like I'll grab a 6 pack of this, a 6 pack of this for the rest of the year. Or like this is my like weekend beer, this is my like Taco Tuesday beer or whatever. And I mean they're great sports 7 nights a week, but like they run late in the night and stuff. And like it's great to have a good beer like with any of those occasions. I would say dry January is like the lowest hanging fruit of the year. It's just an incredible introduction period, and it's so exciting for us and our distributor partners as well because basic like their business usually like it's one of the lowest seasonal points of the year, and it's so exciting to have something that you can push really hard, do incentives around, and have some fun with, and it's not competing for like retail space or anything like that during those periods. So we definitely have a lot of fun during that period.
That's why we have our beer summit in January. It's because it's the slowest month of the year. You know, nothing's going on. It is actually a great selling point that, hey, we have something that you can actually push in January. Yeah, that's not Bud Light on the Super Bowl.
I love that. I
So
mean, I'll be there. I would love to bring some kegs down so people can grab a beer on the walk in.
listen, you sold me. I mean, like I said, I ordered a case and you sent me. It just happened coincidence, and I was like, this is my beer. Hell, I'll drink it all the time. I like it. And you know, one of my questions is, you know, it only has 50 calories. Do you at least the one I'm drinking, but you don't call that out really on the packaging. Is that on purpose?
Uh, Even though like some people like brands in the non-alcoholic world don't play by all the rules, non-alcoholic beer is the same advertising regulations in many ways as alcoholic beer. We have 3 compliance individuals on our team who are incredible, and then like 6 lab teammates, and like we between regulatory and food safety, there's just so much going on in non-alcoholic beer, like the difficulty of adding another SKU. So calories are like we can't make health claims on the beer essentially, same as alcoholic beer. So we follow the same label and package rules and do colas and all that is full strength beer.
Well, I don't know if you've seen, Bill, but Vizzy has antioxidants in it.
Vitamin C.
Yeah.
And vitamin C. So I don't think you calling out a calorie count's gonna but I can see you're conservative, and I like that. You want to play well inside the rules. You don't want to risk anything. And so that's interesting. I mean, they treat you like a beer in some ways, even though there's no alcohol. I thought it would be just treated completely like a soft drink.
For the most part, it is. So we have TTB touch points, FDA touch points, every state's like health department touch points in many ways. And then like food safety is a nightmare in non-alcoholic beverages. It's I know some people cross over between like dairy worlds and brewing, but like it like like flash pasteurization definitely isn't enough for non-alcoholic beer. You have to do like full tunnel pasteurization, which like you basically have to find a mini football field in your brewery to park one of those in. And then like our cleaning is no joke for sure. I mean, if there's cells or bacteria or anything left over in any tank, that'll multiply throughout huge tanks. And we take a lot of pride in dumping beer if anything isn't exactly in spec or where it should be along the process. And
I mean, it's actually harder to make non-alcoholic beer than alcoholic beer, probably, right? I mean,
oh, for sure. Ethanol is like one of the best preservatives out there and cures so many, like you can gloss over so many things. So I do think like the future dynamic of this category too is like we've seen what's happened in the energy drink category, kind of now the hard seltzer category, where there was like an enormous proliferation of brands and a gold rush to chase like growth. And then now like retailers, distributors, and everyone are trying to simplify and streamline their books. I think that'll probably play out even faster in non-alcoholic beer as people rush in, realize what an absolute nightmare it is to make, and not only make non-alcoholic beer, but have shelf-stable non-alcoholic beer, have a food safety plan that's like, will be the thickest book in any lab for sure. And it's serving the really sensitive customers. So I do I do think there'll be people like Athletic who are really committed to the category and its growth and marketing and everything. But like between food safety, the marketing challenges, the product hurdle to make it actually good, I I think there'll be a lot of moats around this category relative to other categories in beer and beverages for a while.
I can see that you are an analyst. You have a very strategic mind, and I have noticed that in the way you've built this business so quickly. And it's not an easy feat. I know I've never done it, and that's why. Okay, and we're over time, but I do have one more question. So, how do you pick distributors? I assume, I mean, from what I've seen, you're with mostly beer distributors. Is that right? And how do you pick distributors, and how's that going?
Going well. I mean, this business is definitely built on hustle and investing in our partners, investing in our team and everything. And it was 2018, 2019, 2020, right up to COVID. I was on a plane 80% of the time, meeting partners face to face, looking at warehouses. Like not only like everyone has very similar talking points, but like if you see their warehouse and hear them talk about innovation and how they merchandise, and like we really wanted to see great warehouses, a lot of trucks, a good sales force. Merchandising is probably our most important thing. And
Wow,
yeah,
I
so
mean, you don't hear too many people say that, but that just rings very true.
for sure. And especially in chain commitments too. And we have almost 50 sales teammates across the country who've visited now like over 30,000 accounts year to date, but still like without great partners in DSD, like it's really hard to keep those shelves looking fresh and winning case stacks and everything, which all you guys know. So, I mean, we love working with beer partners, especially the ones who are like investing in their business and excited about us and doing creative things.
And you don't fall under any franchise laws, right? I mean, if it came to that.
So technically no, in most, so like every state has different laws in some ways. And ultimately we want to be a good partner and have people like, we want people to be sure that they can invest in us and we're not going to pick up and move without them at least getting compensated for it.
Sure.
So even though we do put a lot of protections of beer in our contracts just to be good partners and wanting to build together for the long term. But yeah, we're not necessarily in any one house, and our partners have a lot of different stripes and skills and talents and everything. And so starting to build some really good relationships around the country, especially as we go into like our third year in business in most books. So I guess our second year in most, our third in some, our fourth with Star in Connecticut. So
wow, what a great American success story. I mean, kudos to you. Biscuit, as you can see, is so excited. Biscuit is excited because athletic beer is not just for breakfast anymore. It's not just for humans anymore. It's for everybody. Everybody can drink athletic all the time, every day. And I think that's a message of hope for all Americans these dark times. And I thank you for being on this podcast. Hopefully people are still listening. And
I have one more question, of course.
I was gonna say, I'm glad things look like a success story. I'm about to go back and fix this water main.
But hey, Bill, do you ever partake of the alcoholic beers anymore? Just curious.
I don't. So like it was like a life simplification for me. It wasn't like I didn't get a DUI or no single life event happened to me.
Yeah.
It was almost an accidental quit, and I was like, oh man, this feels great. And I have such a huge appetite, and I knew if I like started to go back, it would be like ice cream. I'd just be having it all the time. So
I know how you feel. I like to eat and I like to drink, but it's hard to do both and be active and take care of this stupid dog. I mean, look at me. I have an active life, as you can see. I do everything from this chair. I'm like Jabba the Hutt. I rule the entire beer universe from this chair. I bet you didn't even know that. It's an underground, undisclosed location.
It's basically the sole reason I work out is my love of food, my love of beer. So
yeah, I hear you. Well, good. Well, thank you for drinking non-alcoholic beer, and Thanks for being on. And can we check in with you in about 6 months?
Yeah, I'll see you in person in San Diego in a couple months.
Awesome.
So fired up to see you guys.
Fantastic. Likewise. All right, guys.
Cool.
Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much. Appreciate everything. Have a great day.